That would be excellent. Katie, if you wouldn't mind turning your video option off, that would be amazing.
That way I don't have to see the blank expressions or eye rolls or, those kinds of things.
Just for the recording piece, and then there will be a Q&A session at the end. So at this point in time, I'm going to kick it over to Erik. He is our Director of Community Management at Aperion, and he'll be talking to you today about our management services.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me today to learn, or review for many of you the services that Aperion Management Group currently offers. This is going to be my first time giving this training, this presentation to people, so bear with me a little bit as I might reference my notes a little bit more than usual as we get through our content today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Katie, I think you're working on shutting off that video, but if you could do that, that'd be great. Okay. All right, hopefully everyone is able to see that. Jessica, are we looking good?
Looking great.
All right, perfect. So again, today I'm going to talk to everybody about just HOA management services in general, and specifically what Aperion is doing on a day-to-day, from day to day in managing your communities. So in my notes here, the first thing that I wrote down was some of you might have questions about, like, why are we reviewing this? We're already clients of Aperion Management. And I think there's a couple good reasons to review this information with everybody. And the first one is that some of you might be newer board members. Oftentimes we have established relationships with clients. They go on, years. But of course, volunteers come and go. And as we get new volunteers onto the board of directors, I think sometimes it's easy to lose sight that that director is coming into an established relationship and a workflow that they may not fully understand. And sometimes it's hard to pump the brakes as the rest of the board or the manager to, slow down and really explain comprehensively what the management service is doing for your association and how that work flows between those different levels from volunteers to the staff. So that's one good reason to go over this stuff. And then I felt like another good reason is to remind all the experienced board members who may have already been working with Aperion for some time, have worked with other management companies and are moving toward Aperion or whatever it is, to remind you of kind of the full range of things that we do under our full management contracts. And I think it's also a helpful reminder because constantly we at Aperion, as well as, let me turn that off. We at Aperion, as well as our the owners in the community often want to understand why professional management is needed, what it's offering to the community, and owners, especially who aren't working with management on a day-to-day basis. It's helpful for them to understand, maybe via the board members, of what we are doing and how we do, justify the cost of hiring professional managers to work with your association.
That's about right. We'll figure it.
So our agenda today is we're going to go over Aperion's kind of an overview of what our management style is. Excuse me, my interruption here as we admit people a little late. We're going to go over the different pieces of our full management contract, what they provide, what those departments kind of do, how they work amongst each other, and how it all flows through the manager to the boards. And then I'm going to review some other options that we've seen other associations, how they structure and offer their management. And then we'll just go into some Q&A. So this graphic is, I think, very telling of what's going on with, the full management services that we offer our clients. We think a little bit differently than traditional management companies. So if you've gone through our process of onboarding, you'll know that we have meetings beforehand with our clients. We're trying to vet clients. We actually say no more than we say yes, because when we take on clients for our management services, we're really seeking to establish a partnership to build and sustain trust and respect for the long term. So when we do that vetting, we're trying to make sure that the association is prepared in its financials, in its records, in its maintenance to transition to a new management company. Obviously, you're probably bringing on management or switching management companies because you're unhappy with something that's happening, and we'll go over that in a minute. But through those partnerships, we feel like long-term success and especially historical knowledge can also be retained by going into client association relationships, really feeling like you've gotten to know each other during the onboarding process, and hopefully we'll be able to sustain that for the long term. So one of the difficulties we have as managers of community associations is that so much of our work is intangible. It's difficult to really quantify and communicate fully what it is that we're doing on a day-to-day basis to assist in running a successful association. And it's particularly, as I mentioned before, difficult to convey that to owners. Because owners aren't seeing, all the reports. They're not seeing all the emails between the manager and the president, or, the manager taking all the phone calls and being the point of contact for the owners. Like, there's just so much that I think owners in particular don't understand about what's being done to help run that association successfully. So this really crazy graphic kind of breaks down all of the work that we're doing almost on a day-to-day basis to show why having a solid management company is a boon to homeowners associations. As you can see, it starts with direct point of contact. There's support for committees and elections, financial services from financial reconciliations and preparation to receivables and payables, communication, project coordination, vendor management, budget prep, design review, insurance, maintenance, records. It just goes on and on and on. But again, the issue with some of this is that these things aren't, a product that the owners are always seeing. So, maybe, Jessica, I'm sure we're going to send out the slide notes to everyone in attendance today, but if you print this out and say, hey, here's what our management company is doing for us, just one glance at it might help owners understand really what it is that they're paying for. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how we feel like we set ourselves apart and how we do things a little bit differently than maybe traditional management companies. So on the left side of your screen, you'll kind of see a lot of reasons why associations would move to professional management or decide to transition to a new manager, or from self-managed to bringing on a manager. We see all of these, often multiple of them at the same time when that decision is being made. But the reason that associations are reaching out or transitioning to new management is typically because the volunteers are overwhelmed. There's a lack of cohesiveness or community culture within that HOA. Maybe expenses are kind of getting out of control. Board meetings are pretty easy to go off the rails if you don't have a firm hand on, the agenda, Robert's Rules of Order, how decisions get made and implemented with community associations. Deferred maintenance, of course, is a huge one. We have a lot of people come to Aperion basically saying we just have fallen so far behind in maintaining our association's assets, whether it's landscaping or clubhouses or whatever it is, that we need help in getting caught up. Maybe you have a previous management company and there was just a lot of turnover. Manager turnover is unfortunately very high in the industry nationally. And I'll talk a little bit in a moment about some of the things that we do at Aperion that maybe you don't understand or the owners don't, to try and limit that turnover and retain the staff that we have. Additionally, poor vendor experience is a reason that associations will want to hire professional management or switch. So moving kind of to the right side of the screen, Katie and Bill Anderson, the owners of Aperion, have been in business for 15 years. And if you ask Katie why she started her own management company, she'll give you an interesting story about, giving birth to their first child and getting emergency phone calls from her team while she was in labor, asking her to take care of things. So that kind of started the original, idea of Aperion was we were going to try and do things a little bit differently. So starting at the top, we have humans answering every phone call. We have an administrative assistant, Mary Mart, and we have a customer service representative, Lori Williamson, both of whom, if you've been with us for a little while or called into the office, you've probably talked to. But they're going to answer the phone, every time somebody calls, and they're going to try and get as much information as they can, and then get that question or that issue to the right person, as opposed to just getting, some faceless voicemail and hoping that someone gets back to you. We do try and put and establish kind of a boundary on returning communications. So we'll tell people we always will return communications within 72 hours. For board members, for lawyers, for board presidents, we're going to get back to you sooner than that. But the volume of communication that comes into our office is very high. So we do try and give our managers a little bit of time to process their messages and get back to people in an appropriate time frame and manner, as soon as they can. We work with kind of cutting edge technology partners. We are transitioning to a new software platform that has taken some time as we've been working with the engineers of that software to build, processes within it that will help us and our managers become more efficient in everything we're doing. And that process has taken some time, but before the end of the year, we do expect to have that up and running for all our clients. And one of the best parts about it is on the back end, the owner portal experience is a lot more friendly than what we have currently right now. Again, the administrative support. And I do want to talk a little bit about the board and owner education. So this is one thing that I and the owners feel very strongly about, which is a lot of the issues being faced in homeowners associations relate to the lack of understanding or education of all the pieces that it takes to run effectively and within the law a homeowners association. And of course they scale in complexity. So we started many years ago doing trainings just like these for all kinds of different things to help educate the board members to become better volunteers, better board directors, more educated board directors. So you're much more knowledgeable and experienced when you leave than when you start. We have a very experienced staff. Again, that kind of goes back to some of the things we've done for employee retention. We took our staff to Dallas last year to attend the CAI Nationals Conference. We have constant ongoing webinars and internal education, depending on the season. You know, we'll do trainings on landscape maintenance, vendor support, budget trainings, all kinds of stuff throughout the course of the year to make sure that our managers are as knowledgeable as we can make them as they tackle the problems and the issues that associations face. Small portfolio sizes for our managers and a unique positive company culture. So you've probably heard a little bit about this, but we are portfolio managers, meaning we don't manage just one community for every manager. They have a portfolio of clients that they work with. A lot of other management companies in the industry will assign, you know, anywhere between 10, 15, we've even heard up to 20 communities that their managers are taking care of. And for us, that's just not sustainable for various reasons. I think the top reason is that when we say we're trying to do things differently, it goes back to vetting the clients and trying to sustain a relationship for long-term success. By having small portfolio sizes and layering our staff to have, you know, community managers have an assistant, they have a senior manager, they have myself as a resource, as the director of our management department, they can really dig in and focus on helping solve the problems that associations are facing instead of just going in and trying to maintain the status quo. And if you're a volunteer on a board in an association, I'm sure you understand that actually solving problems takes time and it takes effort from everybody involved. And really digging in and figuring out what the problem is and what the potential solutions are. Now, when I talk about our positive company culture, I'm sure a lot of companies, you know, say this, they're trying to practice this, and it's not always easy to do. The very nature of homeowners associations causes friction between the owners, the volunteers, and the management company. Because a lot of times what you're telling people is no. You're telling them, no, you can't build that shed that you want to build because it's, you know, not going to be screened right. Or no, you can't, you know, keep your RV out in your driveway because you want to fix it up and then you're going to take it on a trip 2 weeks from now. Those things cause a lot of friction, and many of our interactions with owners aren't, you know, really super positive. So by trying to maintain, you know, a positive company culture within our organization, by giving the support that our managers need, by keeping the portfolios low. As you know, we're only open till noon on Fridays to give a little bit of extra time off to everybody to unwind and enjoy Central Oregon over the weekends. And we do a lot of fun, you know, internal events. We just try and keep it, you know, we're a team and we're trying to get a job done. And a lot of the calls and the emails that come into our office are, you know, full of a little bit of friction. So keeping that company culture positive is really important for us. Oh, sorry. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the work flows. And this, I think, is also an important graphic that you could use, you know, print out, do whatever you'd like. But HOAs help ensure that your community looks its best and functions smoothly with everyone playing a role. So this isn't to say when a board of directors hires a management company that the work for the volunteers will stop. It doesn't stop. It just, the load is certainly lightened, But the way that the work is happening changes. So the board of directors is still running the organization, the business. I mean, you're running a business when you're a board of directors for an HOA. It's just a nonprofit business that you're running. And so you're still running the show, and the board is ultimately still responsible for making all the decisions for the community. Creating the rules and the policies, making sure that the assessments are established in a responsible manner by working with the manager to help draft the budget. Clearly communicating with your fellow board members and your management company about what the goals are, what are the expectations, what are the timelines? Is there, constructive feedback that, there's an area that needs to be improved? And then of course, contracts. So we don't sign contracts and we don't approve contracts. The board is responsible for ultimately for all those decisions. So then you're moving down to the management company. And again, we had that graphic before, but we are doing that day-to-day stuff. We're doing the day-to-day communications about, maintenance or projects going on in the community, lender demands, questionnaires, and escrow for title transfers and sales within the community, as well as disclosures if there's any outstanding liens or violations on homes. We're ensuring that the assessments are collected, that all of those financials are reconciled every month and provided to the board for transparency. Overseeing maintenance, organizing and executing meetings, and overseeing your annual contractual vendors. And then it goes, then it goes down to the homeowners who will be directing their questions and concerns to Aperion, hopefully paying their assessments, and reading their CC&Rs and staying up to date on any current policies or directives coming from the board. This is just a little bit more about the community management aspect of what Aperion Management Group is doing. And I do want to highlight kind of that first point. And I think this is a reason why a lot of self-managed communities end up saying, this is enough. We want to hire professional management. And it's because that management company is going to become the first point of contact for homeowners. So instead of, homeowner has a question, has an issue, and they're calling or they're emailing the board of directors directly, who, often have other full-time careers. Maybe they're on vacation. Maybe they just don't feel like dealing with it that day. Your manager becomes the direct point of contact for all of those initial issues, questions, comments, concerns, anything going on in the community. So I won't say we're a shield because we're not being hired to just take bullets for boards or associations for decisions that are being made, but we are going to be that first point of contact. Also, part of what the management team is doing is regular site reviews of your property to ensure that the vendors are doing their job out there and that the homeowners are complying with the rules in the community. When I say vendors, generally we're talking about annual contractual vendors. So I'll get to our other services in a little bit pertaining to project management. I actually have done a whole other training on Aperion's project management services. But when we take on a client, we're always aware before we take them on of, what annual vendors are they going to be using? Do they have pool maintenance vendors, landscape maintenance vendors, snow removal vendors? And we're establishing those relationships with us right away when we take over a contract and becoming the direct point of contact for all of those vendors for all their questions or comments or issues. Another piece of our community management services is we're maintaining all the records for the homeowners association. in a professional manner. You know, most everything is digital these days, so we do have a robust file tree and an organizational system of how we can find and access all of those records easily. And our managers are also trained in the statute of record retention. So there's some records of your association that need to be kept indefinitely, and there's others that you can get rid of after, you know, a certain period of time. With everything digital now, you know, we're not regularly auditing and expunging any old records. We're just keeping everything organized for, you know, eventually whatever happens with that homeowners association's management. Because upon transition, it's the board or, you know, the prior management company's responsibility to transition all those records to whomever is taking over that management. So as far as meetings, we do attend and plan and execute typically quarterly board meetings and assist with the minute taking and the note taking from those meetings. Oftentimes when we do take on new clients, there's a negotiation period where they may get more meetings than quarterly, or maybe more meetings are needed because there's kind of a quagmire of stuff that just needs more frequent interaction between all the board members and the manager to get to the bottom of. And that's pretty typical when we first start with new clients, is that we'll have more frequent meetings. But our goal as your management company is to get everybody to be operating efficiently enough that the board only has to meet once a quarter, in addition to an annual meeting every year. The management team is going to provide oversight of the insurance policies that the association is required to have. Generally, those are going to be property, liability, directors and officers, and often an umbrella. There may be, you know, particular or specific requirements beyond that that your association has. But we're working with your insurance brokers or your insurance agents and carriers to you know, renew those as they're needed, and even put it out to market if that needs to happen as well. As I'm sure everybody on this call knows, insurance is, what's the word? I'll just say difficult right now. With all of the kind of natural disasters inflating the market, and insurance carriers getting real picky about specifically homes or communities that exist in high risk areas of wildfire, or have significant claims history, or if you're a condominium, you automatically have a ding against you as condos. Another aspect of this is coordinating the annual association meeting and overseeing the association elections. And then, of course, the communication regarding compliance, meetings, community information, all of those things. I'm often blown away at the amount of problems that we face, that we work through, that are brought to us, that really boil down to communication. Needing to communicate more often, more clearly about things will often, you know, solve some of those sticky points. Our customer satisfaction has gone through the roof since we hired Clark as a community manager. Little self-plug there. Now, as far as financial management, we do have an accounting department. It's made up of a director. Paul Boyd is our director of accounting. He has several people working kind of underneath him. We have Sandy and Kim, who are accounting support, and our clerks that are processing the escrow paperwork, changing owner information in the system as those title transfers happen. As well as doing our monthly reconciliations and preparation of the financial statements. And we also have a specialized accounts payable team, Mary and Jose, who are taking in all of the invoices for, all of our clients. Making sure that they're coded to the correct expense accounts and sending them through Strong Room for the approval process to get everybody paid. So that department is responsible for establishing and maintaining the HOA funds, invoicing the owners for assessments, collecting those assessments and monitoring the delinquencies. So Kim, our accounting clerk, works with all of our collections attorneys when those files need to be turned over to the collection attorneys for their actions in collecting delinquencies. We're going to oversee and process payments for all the services that your HOA receives and prepare monthly financial statement with a complete transaction history, check images, all those things for the month. The year-end financial report is often done in conjunction with an outside CPA. And this is a big one. We just had a meeting about this internally the other day. The part of the financial management of your contract is working with the board on preparation of the HOA's annual budget. So we are starting those conversations now in late July because we have to draft, plan, and execute about 60 to 70 different budgets in the course of about an 8-week period. We have this meeting starting in mid-September through about mid-November, so that we can get all of the new assessment information, the coupon books mailed, and the budget letters out by December 1st. Oregon law does require a 30-day remittance of a new budget with a change in assessments to the owners 30 days before it takes effect. So we're talking January through December fiscal year. Again, another big part of this is responding to company demand letters. If you've heard us talk about condo certs, that's where this comes into play. When a home is sold within your community, the HOA is responsible for making disclosures on that home. Does it comply with all the rules and regulations in the community? Is the fence painted the right color? Does it have outstanding violations for, bad paint, or, it could be any number of things. And then as well as the assessment account, if there's any liens or if they're at attorney or anything like that. So we make all those disclosures and provide pre-filled questionnaires through condo certs. And that's part of the services that we provide to our clients as well. And then, of course, tax returns every year that we do in conjunction with the CPAs to make sure that the taxes are getting filed. I do want to say this is, I think, a pretty critical part of what we're providing to our clients through our full management services, because this is the part, in my experience, not many people are standing up to be the treasurer for their homeowners associations, because it does require some understanding, knowledge, and expertise of financial statements, balance sheets. And HOA accounting is a mix of accrual and cash accounting. So it's a little bit of a niche understanding of how the HOA accounting works. So with our software integrations and with our experience and our expertise, we've trained a lot of treasurers and boards to really understand what's going on in their financial statements and make sure they know what to look for now and in the future when they're reviewing those to determine if there's any red flags out there. this is everyone's favorite, the architectural review committees. Sometimes the board acts as the architectural review committee. I do have that situation, with one of my clients right now, but we are going to move toward establishing an architectural review committee, which is pretty standard in homeowners associations. It could be called other things too, for another client of mine, it's called the design review committee. But what this standing committee is doing and what we're helping in as administrators of that process is they're reviewing we are in conjunction with the ARC reviewing and logging all of the submittals for remodels, for exterior changes, for additions, for new construction, landscape remodels, all those kinds of things that are constantly happening in associations. Oftentimes those come with deposits, refundable deposits, review fees, and we're working with the owners who are submitting to process all that paperwork and reviewing, to making sure that it's all complete. Do they have their site plan? Is it accurate? Do they have the application? Have they paid the deposit and the review fee? And then of course, coordinating that with potentially consultants. Does your architecture committee have a architectural consultant? Do they have a landscape design consultant who's advising that committee whether submittals coming in are appropriate for the design guidelines or the requirements in the CCRs that we say.
Oh, it's so good.
He just and his wife, they back right up in front of the.
I think I'm gonna.
If you're speaking, can you please put yourself on mute?
If I want to. They have that whole.
So tracking that process, because design review submittals, architectural submittals often come with a timeline. And if that timeline isn't adhered to, the consequences often are that an automatic approval is granted in the documents or the design review guidelines if nothing is communicated by that committee within the allotted time period. Sometimes it's 15 business days, a calendar month. I usually advise my ARCs to give themselves as much time as possible, but to, oftentimes they'll get the decision done before that. But we're tracking that whole process from start to finish. And then finally doing final inspections and refunding the deposits as needed. We are nearing the end here, everyone. Thanks for bearing with me as I feel like I'm just doing an Aperion commercial here. But other things that we're doing for our clients under your full management contract is we're advising the board to ensure that they're complying with their governing documents and the Oregon Planned Community Act, or in other cases, the Oregon Condominium Act. They're difficult to read. If you've ever read a set of CC&Rs or bylaws from start to finish, they can be ambiguous, they can be vague, they can conflict with each other, and understanding the hierarchy of documents, how you fill in those gaps through policies and resolutions, when you need to fall back on the Oregon state statutes when documents are silent, is an important part of what we do and what our experience and training, provides to the boards. We're going to help you guys assist in complying with all the state laws that pertain to reserve studies, which of course is the 30-year replacement plan for all of the assets in your community, as well as Oregon state law generally, and just performing all the duties that the board must perform. There are a few other things that may come up from time to time in your community that aren't covered under our full management contract. Something like an insurance claim. At the board's request, we do have the training and the ability to act as the coordinator for different insurance claims. These can be extremely time consuming as you work with the master policy carrier, sometimes the owner's policy carrier, maybe a mitigation or restoration company, the board, and it can go on for some time. The adjusters that the carriers provide, So there's a lot of work and coordination there. So when those things come up, we can do those, but that is part of our Schedule A. That I'm sure most of you are familiar with for the services that fall outside of the contractual terms. It also included that is when litigation comes up for your association. Now, we're going to do everything we can to avoid any litigation claims or anything escalating to that point. But it does happen. Certainly it does happen, oftentimes in conjunction with architectural review processes. But we do have the ability to help act as coordinator and communicator for litigation claims that come against the association. Again, as part of that Schedule A. And of course, that's going to be done in conjunction with your HOA attorney. Technology management, group emails, mailings, residential information and requests, payments, fees. I mean, all of this stuff is happening on a day-to-day basis for various owners, boards within your community. We can also offer project management. There is a separate training for that, but that's large scale projects. Like if you're needing to replace the roofs on your condominium buildings, the amount of work that it takes to develop a scope, to collect the bids, meet bidders on site, to go over the work, to compare and contrast the bids, get them revised, get them before the board, choose a vendor, execute the contract, schedule the project, communicate all the details, ensure that they have a safety plan, make all the progress payments, handle the construction liens, provide a closeout report, progress reports and photos. Like all of that can be done for these large scale projects by our managers. But that is also outside of your regular contract because we don't know when those projects are going to come up. And they do require a whole lot of extra time from the team. Just hitting again on the board and manager education. It's just so critical to empower our board members with these trainings to enhance your skills as a volunteer and your understanding of what it takes to manage an association. I will tell you, I was a member of an HOA back when I was living in California before I knew anything about HOAs, before I was in the industry at all. And it's kind of one of those things, if you don't know, you just don't know. If you haven't been in it, experienced it, tried it, been a volunteer, and really learned all the pieces that it takes to successfully run a homeowners association, I think it's easy to say, from the outside looking in, well, you drive around and you send a few letters and you take our money and there's nothing to it. It's simple. I can most assuredly tell you that it is not simple and it is not easy. And if you've been on a board for any period of time, I'm sure you understand that. So that's one of the reasons we want to do these education sessions, and we'll keep doing them. We do have them recorded in the cloud. Our board members can access those anytime. We've done project management, reserve studies, budget basics, insurance, wildfire training. This one, I have a separate one I've done for architectural review committees where we take a deep dive into that process. But more education and more understanding is certainly at the ethos of what we're doing at Aperion. Other options you might have if you don't want a professional management company, you could self-manage. There are a number of communities, typically smaller, that self-manage their associations, but this can often be a full-time job. It will significantly reduce the expenses as you're not hiring a manager or a maintenance team or anything like that. But it's up to the homeowner volunteers in that scenario to directly handle the administrative, maintenance, and operational tasks. And that, again, can often be a full-time job. I think even some of our some of our most active board members who work with their managers to lead their HOAs, it's almost a full-time job for them, even with management. And that increased responsibility can really burn out volunteers pretty quickly. And the difficulty with that is that you have historical knowledge and you have expertise on your board to help run your operations, but those people will leave eventually. And then you're going to have to try and find another volunteer who has that same kind of expertise that can get involved and help with all those pieces. And sometimes those people don't exist. With a management company, you have known hours. We're working on this stuff all day long, every single week. If you're self-managed and, a board member wants to take a vacation or just doesn't want to deal with it that day, they might not have that choice. So that's that management model. Save our money, self-management now, fire the community association manager. And here's this guy saying, really? Really, guys? Another model for management is, of course, the on-site manager. I have never been an on-site manager. I've always been a portfolio manager. But we do have some people, who have been with Aperion or with us now that have done on-site management. And it's a lot of the same stuff, right? It's all of the professional experience and expertise that you get with a professional management company, working with your operations, doing the financials, doing the compliance with laws and maintenance and handling all those things. And it can increase your efficiency too, because your manager isn't working with multiple clients or isn't available, on that Tuesday you need them because they have 2 other board meetings with other clients, like can happen with portfolio managers. Because in essence, when you have a portfolio manager, you're buying a slice of their time, but not all of their time. So with an on-site manager, that point of contact is always going to be available to you. The cost implications is where the on-site manager can, of course, get hung up, because hiring an on-site manager can be very costly due to their full salary, the burden of their benefits, which might increase your HOA dues, but it could also lead to more effective and streamlined operations. Thanks, go. So with that very long-winded and deep dive explanation into kind of all the things that our management staff and our manager are doing for all our clients on almost a daily basis, and how we can communicate and educate and quantify that work to our board members and our owners. I want to thank you for listening, and I'm going to stop sharing and open it up for any questions from anybody today. Thanks for bearing with me. Again, that was my first time doing this one, and I had a bunch of notes that I kind of ignored, but
Eric?
yes, Tracy. Is that
Get
Tracy?
back on mute here. Thank you. First of all, appreciate all your efforts and Aperion's efforts in management. I'm a new owner, actually been here almost 4 weeks now. And one of the things I was curious about, you mentioned going to a new online client portal.
Mhm.
And so I was wondering what the timeline looks like for that to get rolled out to the owners.
That's a great question, Tracy. And we've had a couple dates in our minds that have already gotten pushed for various reasons. So I'm hesitant to make any kind of commitment to when that will be rolled out. but it feels like we're pretty close. I know the user experience for the current owner portals isn't top notch, and then it will be improved with this new one, but I'm hesitant to commit to a timeline right now because we've had to push it a couple times already, Tracy. But I know we're working on it, and we'll have it out to everybody as soon as we can. It feels like we're near the finish line. I'm sorry, I can't really say for sure.
Okay. Fair enough. And is there, if we have suggestions for things, documents or various communications or things we'd like to see on this new portal, who would be a good person to submit that to?
Tracy, I think you could submit that directly to me if you'd like. I'm gonna put my email in the chat here.
I'm assuming this will be a new portal that, are you going to use this across all your, with all your clients?
We are, and I think what we're probably gonna do is we're gonna move about half a dozen clients to entirely to our new software platform, including the portal, and test it out for a little bit to make sure all the kinks are out before we move every client over there.
Got it.
So I put my email in the chat. I am the director of our management department. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always reach out directly to me if you would like. Everyone has a management point of contact as well, and they're all in a team with their senior manager, but we all communicate very regularly, as you can see by the Teams chat pop-ups that were constantly coming up during my presentation.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Well done. Those lists of responsibilities, oh my gosh, how do you even wake up in the morning and not feel like you're behind? So one thing that's in my experience working with HOAs is we're obviously required by law to let people know about meetings and meetings coming up and hopefully the agenda. What we don't do a very good job of is after the meeting. And what we don't do is we don't summarize what were the key takeaways from the meeting, what were the key decisions, and then get that information out to our owners. So I know various different HOAs have newsletters, those kinds of things, but I found it best to kind of have almost a one-page, here's a list of most significant things that happened at the meeting yesterday. And sometimes you can post that at the mailbox for some smaller associations, or just getting something out online that says, here were the key takeaways. And so we'll be putting out our newsletter here within the next week. And we've got actually 7 different HOAs that are connected with Matchmaster Village. So we've asked all of our association managers, or all our chairs, to write up just a short summary of what's going on in your area. And that includes a master board association meeting we had just last week. So we're trying hard to do that, but that's a piece I think all owners would appreciate. Just a quick update on, all right, the meeting was 2 days ago. What actually happened? So hopefully that's helpful.
I like that, Roger. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before with like so many misunderstandings, so much friction comes from not enough communication or not clear enough communication. Now our managers, after a meeting, they're often, recording what the action items are from the board, the things they need to go out and do right away. They're drafting the minutes and getting those in draft form for approval by the board. And of course, the minutes are going to contain all of the actions that were taken during the meeting, but that's an official association record that's formatted a certain way and only contains, essentially the decisions that were made in that meeting without much context of those decisions. So I think that's a great idea. And if that's something that, other board members feel like would be appropriate, talk to your manager about it. And of course, we always love getting the board involved in that. Roger's are really active in his association as the master board chair for Mount Bachelor Village. And, you know, as you saw, the tasks of a manager are many. So it's always hard to turn down, when board members want to lend an additional hand. You know, hey, why don't I do a quick write-up of the meeting and then you can send it out to all the owners. But yeah, okay, great. That's a great idea. Thank you, Roger. Any other questions today?
This is Larry. My question relates to onboarding. When you talked about onboarding as a new board member, one of the questions I've had as I've become involved just barely is, what's the history of the organization? Have we had other managers before? Where are the hot spots? What happened? Why are we with Aperion now? And who was here before and what happened? I think we can learn from history, and that onboarding process, I think, for a new board meeting is pretty crucial. You have any thoughts about that in terms of, is that the standard for groups that you work with, or am I left or we left to kind of discover that on our own through reading past minutes? Which seems cumbersome to me, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard question to answer without understanding of, you know, the particular situation going on with that association. But understand too that, like, your manager, Aperion, might not have all that information, right? Like, if we've been with a client for a year, but that HOA has existed since the 80s, there's going to be a whole lot of stuff that we don't know in terms of the history of what happened in that association. As you said, the hot spots, you know, whatever questions might occur. So a lot of historical knowledge that you might need might come from your fellow board members who have been serving on the board for, you know, sometimes years, multiple terms, or maybe they know someone in the community, you know, a former board president or someone that knows, you know, exactly what happened 5, 7, 10 years ago within the association. So oftentimes our historical knowledge is limited. Onboarding a new board member is, I guess we don't have a standardized set process for that. Oftentimes a one-on-one, you know, take 30 minutes with your manager, and they'll be able to break down probably a lot of the current stuff going on in your association, and some of their experience, you know, within it, and some of those hot spots and some of those rubs. So, you know, also reading the documents and the policies, and then reading past minutes. Minutes aren't often long; they're usually like a page or two. If you go back for a couple years and just read, you know, a couple dozen sets of minutes, it'll probably give you a really good idea of the things that the association has been talking about and doing for the past few years. And a lot of times on those agendas, you'll see the same thing pop up over and over and over again. So you'll know, like, that's definitely a thing in this community. But I guess there's no perfect answer for that.
Thank you.
I do have something.
That's fine.
Rachel here suggesting Aperion holding communication and business meetings at a time more people can attend. We'd like more participation from our communities. Let's do that midday meetings, 5 p.m., 4 to 5 p.m. and later. Thanks. We do hear that quite a bit. You know, we want more participation from our owners. We feel like evening board meetings are a better way to have that happen. That might be true. It probably depends. I've been a community manager for over 10 years. And in my personal experience, attendance at board meetings is pretty much the same, no matter what time you hold them. With enough notice, which is typically 2 weeks for a board meeting, someone who has something that they want to bring to the board, or if they want to address the board or get involved, they're typically going to try and carve out the time to do that. The comment about, you know, we all have jobs and want more participation, part of our company's kind of values and our culture, that positive culture I was talking about earlier, is that our jobs being community association managers are, take place during business hours. And when we ask our managers to, have 6 or 7 clients, and those clients have 4 to 5 board meetings a year, plus an annual meeting. And if they all want those meetings in the evenings and the weekends, that's, 60 to 70 evenings and weekends that our managers are now having to do outside of their regular job during business hours. And that's a really, really fast way to burn people out by taking them away from their hobbies, from their friends, from their family, from their time that they need to decompress and unwind to do this job. So there's a very specific reason why we really encourage our volunteers and our boards to have business meetings, which is what a board meeting is, during business hours. Moving to quarterly meetings, we find it's usually doable for our volunteers to carve out, 4 or 5 late afternoons to attend those meetings. I could go into it more, but we're on the lunch hour here. I don't want to take everyone's time. If you have further questions on that, Rachel, go ahead and reach out to me or anybody else. But we do have very specific reasons why we try and hold those meetings during the day. Now, annual meetings are a little bit different. I think those are often scheduled for, more in the evenings or the weekends when you can get a lot of participation from your owners, because it takes a quorum of your owners to successfully execute those meetings. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and let you all get back to your day. I appreciate your time, your questions, and email me if you have anything further. Thank you.